All right, let's get this happening, hey?
G'day everyone and welcome back to my channel. It's currently night time here in Australia and I thought why not break out the acrylics and have a crack at one of these figurative abstracts. Now this is what we managed to achieve by the end of the night, but first things first, we have to sketch out our composition onto our canvas. Now I get that looking at the completed painting for the beginner it might be a little daunting, but just keep watching as you may be able to get some great tips and you don't have to get every colour right, because being abstract in nature you really don't have to be spot on. And now that I've loosely drawn in or sketched my subject onto the canvas, it's time to start painting my background, which is just some cerulean blue and some titanium white for some added highlights. Now at this stage, we're just going to get that roughly painted into the background. I'm not going to spend too much time. I will tweak it as we go throughout the painting, but you'll just see it start to change and I'll just add more and more or even take away some of the highlights. For me, when I'm doing a painting, there's no exact formula. I don't just say, right, I'm going to paint the eyes, I'm going to fill out the face, I'm going to then paint the hair and then do the background later. Personally, I always like to do the background, then I can put, as you can see here, the hair overlap that background, even when I'm doing a realism piece. It just tends to make your subject stand out from the background. Now, even though it might look a little complicated, the colours I'm using are really quite basic. I've just got some yellow ochre, some raw sienna, and what was the other colour? Yeah, burnt umber, which is not what I'd probably use normally, but it's all I've got in my little art collection here while I'm working away from home. Now this is what I like to call the ugly stage. It's just blocking in. A lot of artists, especially with acrylics, will feel a little overwhelmed or a little dismayed at this point because they're starting to think, especially if you're new to acrylics I should say, they don't understand at this stage it's all about layering with acrylics. It's not like blending, as it is blending and you can blend like you can with oils, but it's really more of the layering process where you just get that undercoat and then, or underglaze I should say to sound like a real artist, and then start to bring those warmer and cooler colours out as you progress. The brush I'm using is just a 15mm flat brush, and as you can see I'm not really worrying about detail at this stage. It's just a matter of starting to get all my tonal values in, the lighter, the cooler, and really just covering that canvas. And if you've followed along with any of my other tutorials, you'll know that I really hate to leave any of the canvas unpainted, because those little, let's say, woven areas of the canvas that are unpainted will collect any dust and they do yellow and age over time. So if you're selling your artworks, it's a good idea to paint every square inch of your canvas. That way the artwork can be cleaned later on after you've correctly varnished your artworks. And plus it's a good assurity or a good selling point to your customers to let them know that over the years of hanging that artwork, they can be cleaned. And if you are selling your artworks, just stress to your collector that they can be cleaned, but they must firstly dust off any dry dust, because if they just hit it with a damp cloth straight away, it's just going to smear that dust and give it that muddy, ruddy look, which is what we do not want on our beautiful, in some cases, expensive artworks. Now getting back to this particular artwork, what I'm doing here is just still building out that, in the building out process, but I'm starting to add colour now, and in so doing I'm just letting that, I don't know, what would you call it, that creative flow happen. I'm really just picking up little bits of blue, trying to hit highlights, and it might work, it might not, and it's not the end of the world if it doesn't work. You can always repaint over that in a couple of minutes. That's the great thing about acrylics. They are a very fast drying medium, and also they're very, very versatile. Even though I said earlier about not having to have your abstract painting absolutely accurate, there is a caveat to that. You really need to be able to hit those points of symmetry that will make the whole thing look aesthetically pleasing, which I really like. I don't really like the Picasso side of things where there's an eye sort of top right hand corner, a nose which is side on, then a pair of lips down to the left hand corner. That to me just doesn't make sense. Whereas this to me is still, at the end, will still look like a woman's face. And yeah, I know art is interpretive, but that's just how I like it. I still like those points of realism being hit. And as you can see here, now that I've got my, let's say, lights and darker values already painted in, I can start to sketch in, again, re-sketch in those particular points. Now I have cheated here a little bit with this painting, and that's actually intentional for those that want to start figurative abstracts. Let's just say, because there's no eyes that are open, the lips are nice and red, but they're closed, even though she looks very sultry and she looks like she's going to have, let's say, looks like she's about to engage in a kiss or something. She has her lips closed. There's no detail of having to paint in teeth. So it is kind of intentional that this painting has eyes closed, lips closed, or mouth closed. That way you don't have to worry about all those focal points, yet still obtain or be able to capture that beautiful feminine look. And you'll see at times my hand wildly flaring around the whole canvas, because I'm still trying to get an idea. I'm just in that dynamic flow where I'm trying to still hit those points of, let's say, symmetry, but get lost in that beautiful feeling that artists get once they get in that zone. It's called the zone, and once you're in it, you're in a different place. You're transported. And this is why I love art so much. You might have all these dramas on the outside of, let's say, in your daily life, but if you can really just step away from the world for a minute and immerse yourself into this kind of creativity, it is just very therapeutic. You've probably noticed throughout this painting that I'm switching between quite a few brushes. I've got a round brush there, currently using my good old filbert. As you know, I love my filberts. And then I've also got my flat brush. I'm trying to stay away from the detailed brush a fair bit, but also, as I said earlier, I do like to concentrate on the detail. So that's when that does come in handy for the eyebrows, eyelashes, and let's just say the shading around the nostrils, nose, and also her lips. And then straight back to my 10mm flat brush, and I'm just doing a little blending here, as you can see. And you can blend with acrylics, don't get me wrong, and a lot of people will buy retarders and all sorts of things to be able to make them blend easier. For me personally, I don't like retarders. I don't like using anything but water. That way I don't feel that I'm going to have particular shines and other things slowing the whole process down. I have tried quite a few of them, and for me they are just more trouble than needed. I just like to stick to my straight water, and as you can see, it's looking rather murky in my little pink cup there. But having said that, it is still just a matter of just being as basic as you possibly can and not having to have more of an expense than you need. I've got a cupboard full of painting products that I'll probably never use, but again, you need to try these things out and just see if you personally like them. It does come down to personal use, but I just say just become a professional at the very basics. That way you can add on as you go along. Let's see if we can get some of this on there. So it's right on there. This is where it starts to get exciting, because as I was talking about earlier, those layering processes are really starting to take shape, and they're really making the face start to stand out from the canvas. And this is, like I said, where I start to get excited. You think, oh, all that work wasn't in vain. It's starting to really make the whole process come together. And when you get a little more confident with your art, you'll start to really trust in that process. You'll start to think, this is not going the way I want, but you will learn to trust in yourself and just let the creativity take its course. And as I'm painting in these nostrils here, normally if I wasn't filming this, I would have my head over the canvas, I would be sitting down, I'm standing up currently, I would be sitting down with my hand firmly planted on the side of the canvas, making sure that I can control this detailed work. Now this is the reason why I love my filbert brush so much. As you can see with these eyebrows, I can just mold those eyebrows in such a way with this filbert brush, which is just a flat brush with rounded edges, but I can turn and twist that brush to complete control, to have complete control. Now, being in control is one thing, but it is a catch-22 situation, because letting yourself be too in control and really taking hold of that detail, you can lose that haphazard sort of abstracty feel that we're aiming at in this particular artwork. And as I said earlier, it's just so much fun to be able to just let go and let the whole process pretty much take control of itself, which you will learn to trust in, and you will get more confident over time. And speaking of being in that zone of free flow, here I'm adding some more highlights to her hair. Don't be afraid to go a little crazy. This is just yellow ochre, and it's just kind of light grabbing, or the sun reflecting on her beautiful face. And again, just to free myself up and not feel too controlled by the detail, I'm going to add some splatters, and where they land is where they land. And it's always a great idea to paint the edges of your canvas. That way they don't have to be framed, and if you are selling your artworks to a collector, they can just hang the painting on their wall as is, and it does cut down on some of the costs. Well, that wraps up this painting, and I think it came out fantastic. She looks gorgeous, and I really do hope that you got some inspiration and some great tips out of this video.